Free energy now.
Imagine a world in which each home has its own power generator that obtains its energy in such a way that no fuel has to be added. Imagine every vehicle being able to run without ever stopping for fuel. Imagine each appliance having its own power source that never has to be recharged. That is the world of the future. Join with us now as we track our progress towards such a world.
Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Sterling Allen. You can join us online at freeenergyquest.com. We're joined today, October 23rd, 2014, by Ray Jennings, a friend and associate in the New Energy Systems Trust. He was president last year of that organization we co-founded in May of 2.5 years ago, and he's an attorney. We're going to be discussing this week's news. He's going to be joining us for this Week in Free Energy recap that I do each week. And we're going to be talking about the Forbidden Energy Award by the XPrizes in particular. And we're going to talk about my being banned from all LDS property, providing a discussion about the crumbling of the powers that be and the power to the people trend that is symbolic of. First, let's do our This Week in Free Energy recap. And beginning this week, one of the headlines, not the headline, I would consider this second tier to the one I'll bring up after this. Lockheed Martin has come up with a compact nuclear fusion reactor. I was getting a lot of people sending me links to that story, so I decided to post a page about it at PezWiki. It's allegedly their first commercial reactors capable of producing 100 megawatts, small enough to fit on the back of a 16-wheeler, could be ready for use in a decade after producing their first prototype in 5 years from now if everything goes well. Well, that sounds all great. And they say that this basically brings nuclear fusion technology back on the discussion among scientists as a feasible technology. However, I made the comment when I posted that, to me, I say ho-hum because we've got these cold fusion technologies that are far ahead of that, already have working prototypes producing copious amounts of energy, and they're running now and in process of going to market. They've been proven, third-party tested, and so my associate Hank Mills did an excellent article that we posted yesterday titled Andrea Rossi's ECAT Devours Lockheed's Hypothetical Compact Fusion Reactor. Lockheed Martin Skunk Works division announced their plans to build a compact nuclear fusion-based reactor prototype within 5 years. The LENR Cold Fusion ECAT, which actually exists today as a commercial product, offers more benefits with none of the drawbacks. And so he asked the question, did the positive findings of the ECAT recent tests force Lockheed's hand? So I want to go read that story. Also in the free energy exotic sector, I posted a story about Fast Freddy's claim that his HHO generator produces over 400 liters per minute. He says he's using very high frequencies, 30 megawatt system. He says he's been working on electric SUV fueled by water and enhanced solar cells with majority of electricity made with a PEM, etc. So that was quite interesting. He's said some interesting things over the years, and with some people has no credibility. With others, he's got a portion of credibility. He does have working stuff. He's not easy to work with, but apparently somebody's working with him right now, and he's making some waves. Want to just mention, we also did a story about this interview we did on this show 2 days ago called Smart Meter Extortion, Take Back Your Power. Not only are they not smart, not power saving, but they raise bills, cause fires, and empower snooping and control by Big Brother. And as bad as those things are, what is more criminal is they are extremely detrimental to health. And the perpetrators know this, but they continue to push it anyway, illegally, with complicity of government. And I said they should be in jail. Well, Ray, this may be a good time for you to chime in. And by the way, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you very much, Sterling. I'm honored to be here.
Yeah, well, I'm honored to have you on. I've really enjoyed our weekly meetings at the New Energy Systems Trust. You are very heavily involved in some amazing stuff, some projects that we have not been able to talk about yet in our news. And you've done some tinkering yourself, and so very, very unusual as an attorney to have somebody like you who has so strong ethics and drive, outside the box thinking, and you try to actually drive customers away, saying that going to court is the last thing you want to do. And so,
well, right. You know, I mean, I'm a person of conscience. You know, I take a different approach than probably most attorneys do to the practice of law. I do litigate, but I always am looking for a solution where, out for the parties. I think that litigation is sometimes necessary. It's a last resort, but basically what we're trying to do is sort of understand rights and responsibilities between people in a variety of situations and describe those to our clients and to our adversaries in the court, and educate the juries as to what our rights and responsibilities are as we've defined them over the centuries. So I'm also progressively thinking about, how the paradigm might shift and how rights and responsibilities evolve over time. So I have a theoretical sort of basis for that I sort of try to bring to the practice of the law, so that's sort of my perspective on it.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's bring that perspective into a real-world situation. These smart meters that the power companies have been putting on, and I think the number...
My connection is, I'm not sure if you can hear me, Sterling.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Can you hear me okay?
I can now. My connection dropped a little bit there.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I was saying these smart meters that the power companies have been rolling out as part of the smart grid, this corporatocracy's been forcing on us. They're causing fires in homes. They are extremely dangerous health-wise. People who are next to these show immediate effects in their blood. We're talking after a couple of minutes of exposure. You do a sample before and a blood sample after, and you can see that their blood cells look noticeably sick just minutes after exposure. And some people are being exposed to these things, 24/7 almost. It depends on how far away you are from them. But, the people who are installing these things have been apprised of this kind of stuff, and yet they still push these things, making it sound like they're mandated and you have to pay to get out, to opt out. And police said, that is extortion.
Right. Well, I mean, I think that, it's like, in terms of the influence that, energy companies in general have, and the way that our society is set up in the distribution of energy, I think that needs to be addressed. I think that basically we need to we need to resist it. People need to wake up to the control system that we sort of live under, and understand what freedom really is. Freedom from control or influence. I mean, there are constraints. There are constraints, I think, that are natural. People should have the right to do what they want to a degree. They're free to do any behavior that is not harming somebody else. And so what we really need to demand of the power companies and is an explanation as to why it is that this constraint that you're placing upon me, the demand that I have installed this meter, is in violation of that, or I should say, is consistent with that, ideal, which is if I'm not harming anyone else. I mean, how is my existing meter harming someone else? I should have the right to maintain that unless it's harming somebody, and in a situation where it's even more harmful, like as you say, and I'm not familiar with the facts of these meters, although, I have heard, the stories, how, you should be able to prevent that from being installed if you're not harming anybody, basically. So.
Yeah. Well, there's various gradations on this in terms of the effect, and it's going to be a function of how close human beings are to them. Sometimes somebody's bedroom and bed is right across the wall, the other side of the wall from these things, and then they're seeing huge impacts. People are dying. I mean, because they're not aware of the meter's impact, they ascribe it to something else. The coroner might say, well, he had a heart attack, or he had a seizure, or, they're calling the symptom of what killed them. They're naming that, but they're not naming the meter as the culprit. But now that people are becoming aware of it, people are becoming extremely outraged and are speaking to their city councils and are demanding from the power company that, they take this thing off their house immediately and replace it with an analog, the previous type of meter. People are rising up and stepping in on this. It looks like it's similar to the cell phone industry, where it's a cool technology, look at all the things that it does, and everyone wants one, and it was rolled out without the necessary human trial tests to see what it's doing to our health and how to shield from that, and the necessary cautions to issue to people. And then you have a cell phone company that doesn't want people to know these negative effects because they want people to buy the product, and they don't want to be liable to all the damage that may have been caused in the past, so they try and cover up. They use their money, rather than to come up with solutions, they use their money to cover up the information as it comes out. And so it was a lazy rollout followed by heavy ramifications, and multiply that by 100 times and you have the smart meters. These things are 100 to 1,000 times more damaging to human beings than cell phones.
Right. So, what needs to be done, that there's a lot in there in terms of what you said, in terms of your allegations, but what really needs to be done is that we need to, collect the facts on that. I mean, there are remedies, but I think that there's also, and there's relief that we could potentially get through the court system or through negotiation, let's put it that way. But we really need to get some solid science behind it, and I'm not sure that I'm taking you at your word that is the case, but it needs to, we need to be able to bring that forward. From there, is where you work. You work from the facts up, and then we can think about what types of remedies are available for people that are aggrieved by this.
And that's the amazing thing, is that the facts are actually extensive, and they touch on those and give some examples in the movie. In fact, let me remind our listeners that they can watch this movie for free. Go to takebackyourpower.net, which is the film website, and then click on Buy Now and enter the code Free Energy, which is exclusive to our audience. And until Friday evening or Friday midnight, Greenwich Mean Time, you can watch it for free. And then after that, there's a small fee for watching it. And I strongly recommend it's extremely well done. It's won all kinds of awards for their show. The quality of the production is phenomenal. The caliber of the people that they interview, the caliber of the information that they provide, and the sequence in which they provide it. It's very well done. Just 5 stars from me on that. And they refer to the vastness of the literature on this that proves that these electromagnetic frequencies are extremely detrimental to health. The microwave frequencies in particular that these things are emitting, and how frequently they do emit them. The power companies said, well, they're only on for like 45 seconds a day. But what they do is they pulse. So they come on a couple times a second just for a brief moment. But that accumulates to 45 seconds a day. And so they think people will be assuaged by that. When in reality, you're continually being exposed to this thing as it's, emitting these frequencies. And they showed, they talked to scientists who did third-party tests for Motorola and other companies and talk about how Motorola, after getting the data, tried to cover it up and tried to get them to shut up. That was, of course, for telephones. That wasn't for smart meters. But that was part of the documentary is showing this kind of complicity and cover up by the corporate interests who are in it for the money, not for human beings and for the goodness of, our overall health. And so the shopping list of damage from these things is extremely extensive. 5 pages, single line list of symptoms and illnesses that have been documented to be a result of exposure to these frequencies.
Well, I take you at your word for that. I haven't seen the film, and thank you for that link. I wrote it down, and I will watch it. But I think that if what you say is true, there will be no shortage of attorneys lining up to handle cases where people have been injured by these things. I look back at the asbestosis cases, asbestos, it wasn't discovered till many years later, the harmful effects of the guys that worked in the shipyards and the steel industry and all kinds of industries that were injured by those. And our system is slow, and unfortunately a lot of those people suffered greatly to exposure to those things. But there is absolutely no shortage of lawyers that will step in to vindicate people for those injuries. So you may be right. That's probably coming. Is that lawsuits will follow the facts.
And also, now that this film, and it's been out for a year, 13 months it's been out, and people have been sending this to their power companies, and so the power companies know about this. They have been put on notice, and so they're culpable. They understand what they're doing, and they're doing it anyway. How does that change the outcome in terms of litigation that might happen?
Well, from my perspective, the litigation starts from the facts. So, and those may take, time to sort of to bring forward, despite the movie or the popular sentiment. You need admissible evidence in court that shows this to be a fact, and there are standards that are set for what is admissible as a scientific fact in the state and federal courts. So you have to have an expert that can, because it's beyond sort of somebody who isn't a specialist. It's a scientist. It's an expert, somebody that is qualified to speak to these things, that spends their day thinking about electromagnetic fields and how they affect the human body, for example. That, so it's a marshaling of those facts through experts that eventually wins the day. And then then you file a suit on behalf of a plaintiff, and you proceed through our courts. And if that is, in fact the case, and you can prove it, that it's more likely than not that, this particular injury was caused by that particular source of, interaction with the person's body, then, it's a simple negligence case. It's a simple personal injury case, which is based upon negligence. That the power company injured my body as a result of installing this meter, and this, and you have to prove each fact the step of the way. And this is what my damages are as a result of that. This is what my injury is, and this is what I'm asking a jury to award me. And so you would think that, in the face of that potential, that power companies would rethink their position, and that might actually happen. But my experience has been is that they are, it's the bottom line that drives that conversation, which is another thing that we can get into about why that is sort of historically been the case.
I would think that this would be fertile ground for like class action lawsuits.
Right. So for a class action, you need a number of plaintiffs that are similarly situated. So there's a whole. I couldn't really. So we could take two shows. We could take an entire law school semester to explain what goes into certifying a class and so forth. But that might be it. But it may be individual lawsuits that turn the tide. So if there are people that are out there that have that can demonstrate a causal relation between the installation of a meter and some ailment to a reasonable degree of certainty, they may have in fact a case against a power company. So it's something that I'd be interested in looking at, although I'd have to bring in others that specialize in that type of action. But certainly I'd be interested if there was somebody that thought they were harmed by that and could show that.
Yeah. Well, when we come back from break, let's talk about the XPrize that we had a conference call on today.
Great, thanks.
Known worldwide as the most consistently fascinating, informative, and unique program on radio, the Jeff Rense program can be yours to listen to anytime, anywhere, whenever you want to hear it. For pennies a day, our subscribers can download any of Jeff's thousands of programs featuring a treasury of newsmakers, researchers, eyewitnesses, and incredible subjects, all in MP3 commercial-free, crystal-clear 56-bit digital sound, and take these often unforgettable programs with them wherever they go. As a subscriber, you can also listen live at airtime, online, anywhere in the world, or browse through our archives of over 6,000 hours of legendary broadcasts. Subscribe now by taking the link at the top of Rense.com and enrich your mind with the most unique panorama of vital information and the best independent, honest journalism in radio. Look for the Subscribe Now link on Rense.com and give yourself the knowledge you need for these unprecedented times.
Presently, a leading technology in our top 5 exotic free energy technologies listing is what we call hydroxy technology, in which onboard electrolysis creates hydrogen and oxygen. Unseparated, it's also called Brown's gas, or HHO. By then adding this to the fuel, the mileage and horsepower of an engine can be significantly improved while reducing emissions. One of the reasons for this is that Brown's gas breaks down the larger chain fuel molecules so they can be utilized and not exhausted unburned. There are many companies worldwide that are making and selling these hydroxy systems. We've compiled a list for you at besthydroxytechnologies.com. One of my favorites is Green Fuel H2O. They haven't yet sold as many as the 2 companies ahead of them, but they have a great product and service. Go to greenwaterfuel.com, which will credit us with the referral. Again, that's greenwaterfuel.com.
The word is out. GetTheT.com. People are waking up to all natural products that help your health. GetTheT.com is the web address to optimum health naturally. Life Change Tea is not just green tea. It is a blend of 8 herbs, specially blended to work and help with your digestive tract. When your stomach feels good, you feel good. Get rid of the yuck that stores up in your colon. Lose some weight naturally. Feel good and enhance your energy. All natural, no caffeine, and it tastes great. Don't wait. Order now at GetTheT.com. That's GetTheT.com. Or you can call us at 928-308-0408. 928-308-0408. Tired of the fear of health loss and sickness? Give your immune system some love. Log on to GetTheT.com. Life's too short to worry and fear. It's time to smile at your doctors naturally. GetTheT.com.
As you listen to and benefit from this Free Energy Quest show, as we track the many cutting-edge clean energy technologies likely to not only be ecological, but economical as well, we would like to remind you that we are listener-supported. You can send donations via PayPal to donate@pesn.com, or you can click on the donate link found on our web pages. You might consider a monthly pledge. You're welcome to send us ideas about possible advertisers or products to present to our esteemed audience via that email as well. Because we spend so much time doing the news, we don't spend quite as much time as we should looking for advertisers and items we can sell in our store, a process that can be quite time-consuming. So presently, we depend on your donations to help keep us afloat. With your assistance, we can help transform this planet from a scarcity slave mentality to an abundance creator mentality with exotic free energy technologies bringing power and freedom to the people. Again, that email address is donate@pesn.com.
Free energy now.
Welcome back to the show. We are talking with Ray Jennings, an attorney and a good friend of mine and associate in the New Energy Systems Trust. Today, Ray, we had a conference call with the New Energy Systems Trust and Nadav Wilf from the Hope X project, which is part of the XPrizes group. And they are, we were talking about this, they call it the Forbidden Energy Prize that was presented as one of their next endeavors. They're going to have $20 million to award to the winner or winners of this project. And also talked about, we said, here's what we can offer to you in terms of bird dogging and helping to find qualifying technologies that could go into this into the contest. And we also made some recommendations about, some of the testing, how many projects are actually to the point that they could compete, could submit technologies for this. And in our estimation, there's 5 to 10 that could be in the drawing. And we also recommended that they do an award, that they break the award rather than $20 million for one technology, to have maybe half of that for first prize, $10 million for first prize, then also carve off like $2 million for an open source winner, so that somebody who has the best open source project could be motivated to give that to the planet. They're going to get at least $2 million for it. And then we would recommend that anyone who goes commercial with those plans, remit a 5% royalty on all sales, whether they're plans, kits, components, completed systems, franchises. 5% goes to the inventor to kind of demonstrate to the planet that this is a working model. And it'd be great if we could have a system that, like a home power system, somebody's got in their hip pocket the plans for that this prize could be the incentive for them to finally share it. And he was very open to that. So we had a great discussion. Do you want to comment on kind of your observations and
Sure.
upshot?
Sure. I mean, I think, listen, your observation during the call that this may be one of the greatest developments that has ever hit the free energy I think that, it's potentially a massive milestone in terms of just bringing consciousness around when you're offering a prize like that and those kinds of dollars. And the recognition that we need to solve some very, very serious problems with respect to energy distribution, and environmental considerations with respect to all of that. I don't think that was understated in the phone call, and I think that it is fantastic development that they are looking to people like yourself and people like Mike Waters and people that have been in this for many, many years, to sort of give them guidance, because we definitely have observed the landscape and can contribute towards that. But even more so, I think that your points during that call with respect to how to direct the prize giving to actually help assist in shifting the paradigm. Not only is it important that these inventors are recognized and honored by their presentations in a system, but we can also structure the entire process so that it actually emphasizes something other than straight out competition, because I think that is one of the things within the corporate structure that we live in, the current paradigm that is holding us back. We need to incentivize cooperation and contribution by different people. And this prize and the way that they structure it could potentially assist in that. I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done in that, but basically what we need to do is move towards a contributory system and away from the competitive sort of winner-take-all sort of structure that's, I'll just call it sociopathic. Our corporate system is sociopathic. I mean, you could not devise a more sociopathic entity than a corporation. What you have is you have, an entity that is out to feed itself and to derive as much profit as it can. And there may be, dozens of corporations out there that are philanthropic, but in its essence, it is a sociopathic entity. It has within its structure, within the agreements that exist within its structure, it is a sociopathic entity. It is against society. It is to feed off of society. And that is something that needs to change. So there have been movements towards, B corporations, but fundamentally it's our consciousness that has to change with respect to that. We have to move away from that paradigm. And I can give you an example, and the example that I frequently use is, you're a CEO of a corporation, public, private, doesn't matter. Your obligation is to your stockholders. And if you're given the decision between doing what is right for society and given the right to do what is best for the stockholders, you don't really have a choice. Your obligation as a CEO, and I think anyone who speaks honestly about this will tell you, your obligation is to the stockholders. And if it increases the bottom line, that's your only choice. Otherwise you could potentially be sued by your stockholders for making a decision that benefits employees, for example, or benefits the environment, but doesn't make you money. Those stockholders are in it to make money. And if a decision, even in the short term, makes money, you can be sued as a CEO, no matter how consciousness you have, by making a decision that doesn't benefit the bottom line. And that's a Frankenstein that we have built as a society, that we support as stockholders, and that needs to be changed. And so we need to devise fundamentally a different way of looking at our entities. And that's what the New Energy Systems Trust is based upon. It's about, helping inventors. Making money, absolutely, but not doing anything that violates the fundamental principles that we hold out, which we declare amongst ourselves. And so when you I think that when you let people know that that's an available option, that it's not all dog eat dog, that there's an option in which you have a choice to benefit humanity as opposed to be a scourge on humanity, then that's a good thing. And we need to let people know that that's a conscious choice that they can make at the outset of their endeavor. And that protects the CEO who wants to do potentially the right thing. But he's being told by his lawyers that he can't do the right thing. So even somebody that's conscientious could lose their job and their livelihood and their, their support from their company if they do things that don't. But you can build those constraints right into the structure of your entity. And that's what I'd like to see. It's a growing trend, and I'd like to see that happen more. And especially with these new energy companies that have a responsibility, in my view, to benefit humanity and not hurt the environment.
Is it something as simple as reintroducing a conscience clause into the bylaws? Right.
So originally, and I can just this is a wicked, very, very wicked to Massachusetts. So it's a very, very basic thing that used to be in the corporate structure, and that was a public purpose clause. So it used to be 100 or more years ago that you had to have, in order to get a charter to become a corporation, you had to serve a public purpose. And who would decide that was the governor of your state. And your state would issue charters to companies that were building bridges or so forth. And so there's two things. There's the public purpose clause that used to exist, and then there was a termination of the corporation. So after the bridge is built, there's no reason for the corporation to exist anymore. Those were, as a matter of history, sort of ran into problems because there was a political patronage that was happening. It was political corruption. Governors were issuing corporate charters to their friends to build bridges. You know what I mean? So it was like this corruption that was happening. And rather than, take a sort of a holistic approach to that, what they did was they threw the baby out with the bathwater, in my view, threw out the public purpose clause. You don't have to have any sort of serve any public good anymore. And you don't, you can be perpetual. So corporations that are perpetual and have no, or have no obligation to serve the public in general are running rampant in our society. Some obviously worse than others. I mean, I'm not disparaging them all. Some are trying to do the right thing and doing the right thing. It's just we've unleashed this, this monster, upon ourselves, and nobody seems to feel the need or there doesn't seem to be an urgency behind solving that problem. There's sort of a slow roll towards that, but it's not as urgent as I'd like to. So the reason I bring it up is with free energy, there should also be there's an opportunity to incorporate some of these concepts into the companies that are bringing these energy devices forward. And that's why I bring it up to you, Sterling. It's we need to sort of engage inventors and people that are on the cutting edge, because they not only have an opportunity to bring a device into the world that saves us dollars on our energy bills, but they have an opportunity to change the very, paradigm, the social paradigm, because obviously there's a lot of interest if we could have that device, and if a company structured itself around that principle, it could really, really change the world that we live in a, just in a different way than just having a different solar panel or wind turbine. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's really good. One thing I want to bring up back to the XPrize, talking about that, is the analogy that I thought of as we were talking today with the guys from that XPrize for the Forbidden Energy, the next prize, is that what's huge about this is that in the energy sector, the free energy sector, we typically think of this bullies of the government and energy companies who come along and say, they suppress, they intimidate, they buy out these technologies that are going to make them obsolete. And now we have this big muscle man coming into the scene who's saying, hey, stop messing with these guys. And it's really cool to have somebody of this stature come in with this much money to play and to bring their credibility. I just am so happy to see that happen.
Right, and so I think that it's a huge development. It's an encouraging development, and to be able to shine a light on this issue, this problem, regardless of how the actual prize works and the structure of that or whatever, but to be able to shine a light on the problem and give it some attention, just the attention of, the idea that we need to, here we're offering a prize and we need to solve this problem, gets the attention of people and gets their creative and scientific juices flowing. And I think that's an incredible development. I mean, I was really overwhelmed today. I'm so happy and to be able to, help shape that is just an honor that and shape that discussion and shape the contest. And, that's a tremendous opportunity, certainly.
Yeah, it is. Wanted to go on one other subject here. And, I mentioned in the introduction that I received a certified letter today, or not today, 3 days ago, from Curtin McConkie, who's said, we represent the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and are writing to inform you of restrictions placed upon you because of your recent actions. You have created disturbances on church property, violated church policies, and caused members and leaders to fear for their safety. As a result, you are no longer welcome to come on to any property owned or controlled by the church, wherever located. And it goes on, and I received this like, what in the heck? I had no idea what it was talking about, recent actions and created disturbances. I was like, what? Did they keep, as I racked myself in my brain wondering what this was talking about, I wondered maybe somebody else did something, and they said, when they asked, what's your name, they said, Sterling Allen, fraudulently, or maybe they had a name that was similar to mine, and security somehow thought it maybe was me, because I'm very controversial and got a history and whatnot, and it's not of violence, but of just being controversial. And so anyway, I get this letter, and it's like, whoa. So I contacted local bishop, where I've been attending some services locally, going to a Sunday school class, as kind of a framework, as a springboard. I come home and I turn on the video cam and I go much deeper, and I got this SterlingSundaySchool.com series that I've been doing. And so I behave myself when I go there. I don't push too hard. I keep within their parameters. The bishop, I've talked to the bishop, got a good relationship with him. He doesn't have any problem with me being there and participating. Talked to the stake president last week and have a good rapport with him. He's like 5 or 6 congregations. He's over that. And so when church security called him, and they apparently what happened is they were looking I alerted somehow to my Sterling Sunday School series where I make reference to going to Sunday school during the services and then come home and I enlarge upon that for the remnant. I call it Graduate Studies for the Remnant. And apparently they were kind of buzzed up a little bit about that and feeling concerned, like, should we be worried about this guy? And they called us stake presidents. Oh, no, he's not a threat. Do you feel like he's a physical threat? No. And then they read him this statement, and they said, could you go along with this? And so here's what happened. The stake president went from, here's a congregant in my parish, so to speak, who is being accused of, or they're wondering about whether there's a problem, and they read the statement, and they said, could you go along with that? And rather than saying, no, that doesn't have any grounds in truth, he said, well, if that's where you're coming from, I guess I could support that. So they basically said, because he said that, rather than standing up for me and saying, no, there's no basis in truth, he said, well, yeah, I guess I could go along with that. They then said that the local leaders feel like their safety is in jeopardy.
Right, and we talked about this already, but for the record, I don't think that you're any physical threat, nor would I find it credible to think that that anyone could feel threatened by you physically. But they are threatened by the types of thoughts that you have and the types of opinions that you express, because this is an authoritarian structure. This is a old world. It's the structure of the LDS Church. And I'm not picking them out. It's just as an example. It's the authoritarian sort of structure of organizations is something that we need to rethink. We need to move on to something that's more cooperative and communal. And the church, for whatever reason, it doesn't thrive on, it needs followers. It doesn't need independent thinkers. That's not what turns its engines. And I think we just have to recognize that and recognize and look critically at all of our institutions and how that paradigm needs to shift. Now, some organizations are transforming themselves to become more cooperative and more inclusive and more just more responsible to their individual freedoms. But it's we might wait 1,000 years at the rate we're going. You know what I mean? It's a trend that I recognize, but it's not one that's growing. We need to boost that onto the the fast track, and increase the rate at which that happens. And I think it can. I think that people just are sort of unaware of the authority structure that they submit to. I mean, I see it. I see it every day. People come in and they're like, well, there must be some authority that can make that decision for me, how I handle this situation. There must be some rule or some law or some judge that's, can inform me. No, I mean, hey, I hate to break it to you. It might just be your personal responsibility to figure out what's the right thing to do here, and, but we're so sort of, conditioned, mind control to look to authority. We have to free ourselves from that, and I know that you, personally, think that may be key to our being, deserving of the energy, free energy. But I think that it's just freedom, man. It's just freedom. It's, free yourself from that control structure. It's an intellectual, pursuit, you need to start making decisions that are moral on a personal level. And that's where it starts, in understanding and being a student of what your rights are, but also what your responsibilities are. Your responsibilities to others. Acknowledge when your conduct is harming somebody, and refrain from that activity. People just don't do that. They look to others to enforce their rights. I mean, look at our local police. They're inundated with people that just are clueless, acting like children. They can't even figure out how to deal with their neighbor, let alone make any important decisions. And we're stagnated because of that. We're not moving forward as a society because we've abdicated our responsibility to own those principles, and our culture is perpetuating that. So, I think we all need to be, and I know that your listening audience I'm speaking to the choir a little bit here, but, we need to be students of that and understand those things, or we're never going to get out of the conundrum that we're in, because it is, at our core.
Yeah, this comes back to power to the people, and that's what free energy is all about, is taking responsibility for ourselves, not just in free energy, but in religion and in politics and in, everything. It applies. So thanks, Ray, for coming on the show. It's been a fun conversation.
Hey, thank you so much, Sterling.
You've been listening to Free Energy Now, brought to you by PES, Pure Energy Systems. You may access past archives and upcoming show info at freeenergynow.net and join us for our daily news at freeenergynews.com. We invite you to see our directory of energy technologies at peswiki.com. That's peswiki.com. PES, the Pure Energy Systems Information Network.
You're listening to the Rents Radio Network, nationwide and worldwide on the net and at rents.com.
We're going to be discussing this week's news. He's going to be joining us for this week in Free Energy recap that I do each week. And we're going to be talking about the Forbidden Energy Award by the XPrize in particular. And we're going to talk about my being banned from all LDS property, providing a discussion about the crumbling of the powers to be and the power to the people trend that is symbolic of. First, let's do our This Week in Free Energy recap. And beginning this week, one of the headlines, not the headline, I would consider this second tier to the one I'll bring up after this. Lockheed Martin has come up with a compact nuclear fusion reactor. I was getting a lot of people sending me links to that story, so I decided to post a page about it at PezWiki. It's allegedly their first commercial reactors capable of producing 100 megawatts, small enough to fit on.
Free Energy Now.
Imagine a world in which each home has its own power generator that obtains its energy in such a way that no fuel has to be added. Imagine every vehicle being able to run without ever stopping for fuel. Imagine each appliance having its own power source that never has to be recharged. That is the world of the future. Join with us now as we track our progress towards such a world.
Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Sterling Allen. You can join us online at freeenergyquest.com. We're joined today, October 23rd, 2014, by Ray Jennings, a friend and associate in the New Energy Systems Trust. He was president last year of that organization we co-founded in May of 2.5 years ago, and he's an attorney. I work PEM, etc. So that was quite interesting. He's said some interesting things over the years, and with some people has no credibility. With others, he's got a portion of credibility. He does have working stuff. He's not easy to work with, but apparently somebody's working with him right now, and he's making some waves. Want to just mention, we also did a story about this interview we did on this show 2 days ago called Smart Meter Extortion. Take back your power. Not only are they not smart, not power saving, but they raise bills, cause fires, and empower snooping and control by Big Brother. And as bad as those things are, what is more criminal is they are extremely detrimental to health, and the perpetrators know this, but they continue to push it anyway, illegally, with complicity of government. And I said they should be in jail. Well, Ray, this may be a good time for you to chime in. Devours Lockheed's hypothetical compact fusion reactor. Lockheed Martin Skunk Works division announced their plans to build a compact nuclear fusion-based reactor prototype within 5 years. The LENR cold fusion ECAP, which actually exists today as a commercial product, offers more benefits with none of the drawbacks. And so he asked the question, did the positive findings of the ECAP recent tests force Lockheed's hand? So I want to go read that story. Also in the free energy exotic sector, I posted a story about Fast Freddy's claim that his HHO generator produces over 400 liters per minute. He says he's using very high frequencies, 30 megawatt system. He says he's been working on electric SUV fueled by water and enhanced solar cells with majority of electricity made within the back of a 16-wheeler. Could be ready for use in a decade after producing their first prototype in 5 years from now if everything goes well. Well, that sounds all great. And they say that this basically brings nuclear fusion technology back on the discussion among scientists as a feasible technology. However, I made the comment when I posted that to me, I say ho-hum because we've got these cold fusion technologies that are far ahead of that, already have working prototypes producing copious amounts of energy, and they're running now and in process of going to market. They've been proven, third-party tested, and so my associate Hank Mills did an excellent article that we posted yesterday titled Andrea Rossi's